Hi there, it's Kent Barber here from Game Logic Design. Today I want to take you through the new features in 4D Publish 1.6. So here's R17 open, and I've got the canvas stock down here and the paintbrushes here. Otherwise, this is the standard sculpting layout. And what I'm going to do first is create a sphere. Subdivide it up a few times. Get a mask. Draw a mask there on my object. I'm going to create a material. And then I'm going to select my paintbrush. So the first thing that's new is that the paintbrush now supports the mask. So it respects the masks that are on the surface and I won't paint on them. So the next thing, I just want to draw another mask on here. So you may want to use these masks in your texturing workflows. So I'm just going to add a new layer, call it mask. And the first thing you can do is you come over here on the left and you can go fill sculpt mask. And that's going to draw the mask directly into that layer. And where it's white is where it's masked, and where it's black, there is no mask. Now those colors are particularly useful if you want to use the body paint masking. So if I come over here and go right click, you can go show layer manager. That's going to bring up the body paint layer manager. You can also get that from up here, body paint layer manager, or you can also right click in here. You can also get the color settings from here now as well. So I'll bring that in as well and select a different color. So with this here, you can right click and you can go add layer mask, and it's going to add a mask to that layer. And we're going to do that same thing over here, go fill sculpt mask, and it's going to draw it into that mask. Now if we select this on the left, we can come in with our brush, and I'll just clear that mask. Now wherever I paint with the paintbrush, it's going to paint just into that where it's masked. And of course you can invert that and do the opposite as well. So you can paint where it's not masked. Now this is really useful if you've been doing sculpting workflows and you may have spent a lot of time masking up particular parts of your object, specifically if you've done it on different layers as well and stored your masks on multiple layers. It now allows you to bring those masks that you've created and bring them through into your texturing workflows. So the next thing here is we can actually come in. I'm going to create a brand new layer in the sculpting and draw some fine detail on. This isn't really fine, but the idea is this would be fine detail, not big huge deformations, but quite small ones. And later on you want to come through and you actually want to paint up just these bits that you've painted there. So now you can do that very easily by coming up to the material view. We'll add a new layer, we'll call it fine. And with that selected, I'm going to come over, right click here and go add layer mask. Make sure it's selected. And come over here and I'm going to go fill sculpt layer. So it's going to fill this in with the sculpting information from whichever layer you've got selected. And now, if you select this, I select a different color, my paintbrush, I can come in and I can paint just where that sculpting occurred. The next small improvement that we've got here is, if you come into here, first I'm just going to make a selection in here. It's better to select things in the viewport using normal selection tools, but you can do it here as well with some simple tools. I'm just going to create a new material from that. Now what I wanted to show here is that this system works with multiple materials where you have all the layers over every single material. So kind of like global layers, if you will. Now sometimes you might want to delete some of these. So if you now right click on this and go delete all same named layers, it's going to delete every layer on the color channel on every material that's called the word fine. One issue though is you can't undo that in the system. So unfortunately we don't have access to all the undo stuff that BodyPaint has. It's kind of internal, but where we can, we're adding features that are at least usable in certain workflows. And up here you can also just delete a single one if you want. So this will just delete that mask just from that one material, just from the color channel. So that workflow is also there if you'd like to do that. And lastly, the small thing in here is displacement now generates a RGB image, whereas previously it generated a grayscale image. So this is now an RGB image. Another small improvement here is that the Octane painting now supports undo, so you can undo and you can redo your strokes. Previously, sometimes you'd do a single dot and it wouldn't undo and you'd have to refresh this, but that's now been fixed. So now you get a much better workflow inside of the Octane Live Viewer when you're doing your real-time painting. The painting now also supports hidden polygons. So let me just delete that sculpt tag from there. Select this, select a few polygons just to show that this works. And we'll go select and we'll go hide selected. We'll change our color here. And I'm getting the paintbrush. and I'm just going to paint around here, and I'll go up to select, unhide all, and you'll notice that the painting did not go over the hidden polygons. Another small improvement is stencils down here are now generated 512 by 512 resolution, so they look a bit better when you zoom in on them. That's stencils and stamps, as well as the HDRs and the 360s. And lastly, I want to show the workflow that involves using a canvas and then switching over to using stencils for painting. So we're basically going to be switching tools. So quickly here, I'm just going to select the paintbrush standard tool. I'm going to control click on the face that I want. That puts a canvas into the viewport there. Just resize this down a bit. Now you can move this around using a hotkey. So that I'm moving around here and resizing it and scaling it and putting it where I need it to be. You can set that hotkey from the customized palettes. Come in here and go move canvas. With that selected, you just select your hotkey and you make sure you turn on tool override and click add. So I'm using the M key here. Don't use the T key because that's used by sculpting. So we'll have our tool here and we hold down M and we can drag that around. So this is standard in 1.5. So this is just a little workflow that I've demonstrated before, and I'll show you something in a second that will be the new feature for 1.6. So first we have the grab tool here, tapping W. So this workflow allows you to turn on symmetry here. Allows you to kind of get your mesh in the shape that you want it. Now I'm not doing a great job here, I'm just messing around pretty much just to highlight the new feature. So the new feature is that once you've got this exactly where you want it to be, you want to use this canvas for painting. But a better workflow would be if you wanted to take this over to use the paintbrush, because the paintbrush has a few more things like symmetry. So just click your paintbrush there. And previously you'd have to come to the stencil tab and you'd have to set this all up again, drag your image in or control click your image in and then resize it and everything as well. But now there's a single click here. So whatever canvas is displayed in the viewport, clicking this will bring it in and set it as a stencil. So it's brought it in, the transparency is the right setting, it's scaled correctly as well, and it's positioned in the same location. So now we can hide or just delete that canvas directly from the viewport. Select the mesh again, and now we come in and we select our paintbrush and we select the surface here, and now we can just start painting that down symmetrically onto the model. So that little option there just allows you to bring in your canvas that you've set up previously in the paintbrush standard, which is quite useful having a canvas in there, especially when you're using the grab tool to get the shape of your model. And lastly, the last thing that we've added here is Team Render client support. So now if you want to use 4D Publish on any of your Team Render clients, you can just install it everywhere and it will work fine. So there's no license restrictions on installing 4D Publish on your clients. That allows you to render your canvases over multiple clients for whatever workflows that you need to create. Okay, so that's it for me today. I hope you like these additions. This will be coming out hopefully within the next week. We're just finishing off some documentation and a few other little things, and we will put it up on the website and let you all know that it's ready to go. Thanks.